I'm getting so excited for Canadian Imaging. In just a few short weeks, it will be hosted in my home province of Saskatchewan, and I'm very excited for everyone to come to us. I know we always feel especially connected as an organization when we get to see one another in person and gain inspiration from the wonderful people around us, and I just can't wait. One of the speakers is named Grant McConnell. He's actually not a photographer. He's a visual artist and a professor. And I'm looking forward to having, hopefully, my horizons expanded a little bit. It's been a while since I've been able to really just create art with my craft, and that's one of my resolutions for this year in 2026 is I want to do more passion projects that are really for me. So I'm hoping that his presentation will leave us feeling inspired, and I'm sure it will. See you there.
There is so much photographers as artists can learn from fine art and traditional art history. Grant is no stranger when it comes to art and teaching the discipline. I would love to hear your view on photographers learning from Grant's talk and improving their art at the conference.
Yeah, improving their art at the conference. Yeah, that's a good one. As you mentioned, Manpreet, photography is an art form. It's important to see how photography relates to art as a whole. And Grant, who teaches Canadian and modern art history at Studio Art at the University of Saskatchewan and St. Peter's College, was recommended to me by one of our members for his expertise. His upcoming lecture, The Bigger Picture, considering composition from across the visual arts, will explore how learning from other artistic disciplines can deepen our approach to composition. Grant is an excellent choice to help us understand the connection between art and photography.
There are 3 hats that a professional photographer has to wear: the technical hat, the business hat, and the artist hat. There are countless tutorials and videos online explaining the technical part of photography, and the nerd in us spends hours learning about it, only to be surpassed as technology advances. Business knowledge is more relevant to those who make a livelihood through photography. And to make their business a financial success, this knowledge is vital. But the art side of photography is the most satisfying, at least for me. It's also the hat that gets one to the top of their game. The knowledge, however, is hard to come by. And that is why I am thrilled to welcome Grant McConnell, who teaches art at the University of Saskatchewan and is going to speak to us at Canadian Imaging 2026. So Grant, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Grant McConnell? And please don't shy away from talking about your achievements.
Thanks so much, Manpreet. Pleasure to have an opportunity to talk with you over the next few minutes, just to warm us up a little bit to what those who are going to be viewing this short video clip are going to have in store for them if they were to come out to my presentation at what promises to be a spectacularly good conference in Saskatoon, where I teach contract work at the University of Saskatchewan, and at the affiliated St. Peter's College, where I'm actually situated right now doing a painting retreat here. So I work as an artist and an educator, which means speaking of hats, I'm always wearing 2 hats, at least at one given time, which means that I really sustain myself as an artist, and that's in the middle of my practice. Sometimes I tell my students if I'm not doing well in the studio, I'm maybe not as happy a teacher, then I don't have as much to contribute on that side of things. But to be an artist and educator, I really realize two things, which is the importance of keeping your practice as an artist alive and really re-engaging with things that make it fruitful, and to reinvent yourself. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I also talk frequently to my students about the importance of really having a sound background. And that's what I'm always doing as a teacher. And I teach everything from drawing and painting on through. I'm the unusual one that teaches a fair bit of art history, and I teach introduction to art history. I teach visual culture. I teach modernism, Canadian art, and currently what I'm doing is professional practices class, which is the other hat about the business side of things, which I talk about frequently. Very, very important to merge these things, and whenever I talk about them, I'm always revisiting them, and that for me is crucial to my own practice. Sat on boards over the years: Saskatchewan Arts Board, Sask Arts, Access Copyright, the Ramey Modern in Saskatoon, which is our great, relatively new art museum that hopefully you'll have a chance to take in when you're visiting Saskatoon as well. And beyond that, CARFAC, which is Canadian Artist Representation. I was the national president for 4 years, some years ago now. Continue to be involved, as I have been for many years, with this great organization. So it brings us to composition, and hopefully what I'm going to have a chance to speak with those who attend my session in Saskatoon is this. Well, why composition? For me, it's my hunger for finding out how other artists, sculptors, photographers, choreographers, musicians, how they put the stuff together, how they put the parts together to really make a successful composition, but not just finding it and leaving it there, not just finding it and just reconstituting the same thing time and time again. It's really crucial in the creative arts to be creative, not surprisingly, which means to stretch, go beyond yourself, to go beyond your current knowledge into something new. And that's absolutely crucial. That's what composition is. It's this all-embracing order that you have to, find a different way to embrace it each time. If not each time out, then you have to renew it. And it's crucial to do that. Because what composition is we're talking about how to navigate what it is that we're presenting to the viewer, to the audience, and navigate in such a way that how do we lead the eye? How do we draw someone into a composition in a way that compels someone, seduces someone into looking at what it is that we do? Absolutely crucial that we do that. Sure, we use the elements of art, the principles of design to do that, but composition really is that in a sense, the parts belong to a whole, and it's our job to describe without question, entirely confidently in what it is that we do, what that whole is, what we bring to people, and it's very, very important. In the end, what do we want? We want everything in our compositions to be singing from the same song sheet. That's what we need to have happen in order for it to be a successful composition, and that's what I set out to do. As the painter, the Cubist painter that I'll refer to in my presentation, Georges Braque, talks about, he says, it's not really our job simply to, excuse me, reconstitute, bring back an anecdotal fact. It's not just to take something, grab it, and represent it. That's not really enough. What we should be doing is, with intention, composing a pictorial fact. We compose. We don't just, reconstitute something. We're composing. We're bringing something to the audience, to the viewer, for the very first time as it exists. So, as I'm calling it, the bigger picture. Well, what is that? It means, like, all the time, as artists, what we're setting out to do is make a bigger picture for ourselves to engage with and to renew ourselves. And it's really important to do that. To expand our knowledge, to re-engage with our initial practice that it is, because it's not just that we get tired. Sometimes we're kind of blinded by the successes that we've had in the past. And it's important for us to set those aside so that, in part, we're bringing new things to our visual vocabulary to present, make it new for ourselves, so that we re-engage and we become curious about our own practice and what we can do with that. Very, very important, so that we can break out of any obstacles that we might have in the path to us making better work. And at the end of the day, that's what we're setting up today. And in the bigger picture, I'm going to talk about how choreographers do it a little bit. I'm going to talk about that, mostly drawn from art history, though, is what I'm going to be doing, showing painting, sculpture, some photography, although at a photography conference I'm going to leave a lot of that to others. But at the end of this, your engagement with me, I'll be talking about things in terms of their utility, how you can walk out of the session and say, there are 3 or 4 things that were talked about here. Not everything. Like, you're not going to, I would say, be drawn into everything that I'm engaging with. But the idea that you can walk out of there and say there are 3 or 4 things that, haven't thought of it like that. I'm surprised that I'm looking at an artist from the Baroque era or mid-century minimalist or abstract expressionist, and said there's something in the way that person works that I can use utility, putting it to work, grasping something that maybe you didn't know that you might be drawn to, and then bring it back into your own practice. When I was approached initially about doing this conference about composition, it was because in part the word had gotten back that it would be nice to expand on the knowledge base and draw someone in from a different background. Well, that's what I'm doing here, and I hope an opportunity to do that. Again, if you're going to walk out of my presentation saying this, that, there's something that can really contribute to me reinventing myself, or at least in part reassessing what it is that I do in a positive way, good. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on at the meeting and the conference in April.
What would you say to someone on the fence about attending your talk? What would you say is the importance of being there?
I think it's important for all of us who are engaged in any creative field to know that we have to renew ourselves. We have to look at what we think we know, maybe from a different perspective, maybe from a 180-degree different perspective, and look in from a different point of view. Point of view is essential. So we are drawn to some things, or just within the trajectory of the way that we operate in the art world, to know more of what is closest to us in terms of our own practice is natural, as you can imagine it would be in photographic practice. So to look at what people who are to some degree across the room from us in some ways, looking at those, painters and sculptors and those who I'll just touch on from the other our comrades in the other arts as well, in music and such. Really important to do that. So to walk out of there having said, you know what, I wasn't sure if this was for me, but let my curiosity take over. And to be curious is, I think, the root of a lot of renewal. Being curious is something that keeps us young. Being curious is something that an artist, or a creative artist, never lets go of. That joy of youth. The young child who just takes absolute delight, goes confidently into working with art materials and the enjoyment that they take without hesitation. I want that. That's the hunger I'm talking about, that hopefully you have some of that hunger too, and we'll bring it to the session so that we can engage once again at the conference in April.
I love that you touched about the curiosity of a young child. That's where the creativity begins. Anyway, Grant, I am really looking forward to meeting you at the conference and learning from you. And thank you for agreeing to be one of our speakers.
Absolutely.
I will see you in April.
Terrific. Great. All the best. Take care, and we'll see you in April.